Conservative Christian leaders are calling on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop a bill proposed by members of his coalition to make it criminal to tell people about Jesus in Israel. Our Jerusalem correspondent Daniel Cohen is live near Tel Aviv with more. Good morning, Daniel.
Hey, what's going on, folks? Late night stream. So two people in Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition are trying to pass a bill that will essentially make it illegal with prison time for Christians who preach the gospel of Jesus and try to convert others in Israel. What exactly does the bill say? What's this shocking Newsmax report? We'll play the clip, react to it, read an actual report so we get to the truth, and talk about some inconvenient stuff. God bless you. The show starts now. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. Let me know if my video's working. I don't know, some sort of malfunction, oddly. But the story of the day is two members of Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition are pushing a law to essentially make it illegal to spread the gospel of Jesus in Israel. I have a full report here. I'm going to read from All Israel News, but let's first look at Newsmax, who did a fantastic job to basically report this. Let's take a watch.
Conservative Christian leaders are calling on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop a bill proposed by members of his coalition to make it criminal to tell people about Jesus in Israel. Our Jerusalem correspondent Daniel Cohen is live near Tel Aviv with more. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Allison. Good morning, everyone. A big story just before days before Palm Sunday, Good Friday, and Easter. Sacred time for Christians. Two ultra-Orthodox members of Prime Minister Netanyahu's coalition have introduced a bill that would punish believers for sharing the gospel of Jesus with prison time. United Torah Judaism Knesset members Moshe Gafni and Yaakov Asher introduced legislation last week, making it illegal to share in conversation or produce content online, in print, or by mail. Their explanation of the bill emphasizes a warning to stop Christians in particular.
So that's the report from Newsmax. First off, thank you for doing that report. We appreciate it. Secondly, a lot of people will be surprised by this. They'll be like, no way. Really? Israel would do that to their greatest ally? And Benjamin Netanyahu, our best friend, would people in his coalition feel that way? They want to basically outlaw the gospel of Jesus in Israel, the land of the Bible. Let's read the report. I'm just going to go through the whole thing, and then I'm going to tell you my perspective. If you watch my videos for years, I've been warning people about these anti-Semitism speech laws in America that are being passed by Trump and DeSantis. I know, very shocking. People don't know about this. We'll get into it. Under the guise of basically hate speech, they're basically, even in America, starting to push the framework to make the Bible illegal. I know that sounds shocking. Like, no, but I'll prove it. Let's get into the report. All Israel News says, exclusive to Knesset members propose legislation to outlaw sharing the gospel in Israel and send violators to prison. Could this become law? Out of Jerusalem, it is possible that the Israeli government this year could pass legislation making it illegal for people to share the gospel message in the very land where Jesus was born, raised, preached, died, buried, and rose from the dead. Unfortunately, yes. As Palm Sunday and Easter approach, the two most sacred days on the calendar for those following Jesus as both God and Messiah, two members of the Knesset, Israel's parliament, introduced a bill last week that would ban any and all efforts to tell people about Jesus. The bill would send violators to prison. Should it begin to gain traction inside the Knesset and begin moving towards passage, the bill could create a major new headache for Netanyahu's government by sparking a serious clash with evangelical Christians in the United States and around the world who are among the biggest supporters of Israel. It's true. The proposed legislation would outlaw all efforts by people of one faith who in any way want to discuss or try to persuade people of other faiths to consider changing their current religious beliefs. The punishment for doing so would be 1 year imprisonment. If the conversion is with a minor, someone under the age of 18, the punishment would be 2 years imprisonment. So I'm guessing it would be easier to change somebody's gender than it would be their religion. I don't know, though. I don't know Israel's laws on that. The bill would apply to people having spiritual conversations with Israelis of any religion. However, in their official explanation of the bill, the two Israeli legislators specifically emphasized the warning to stop Christians in particular. The bill's primary objective, therefore, appears to be make it illegal for the followers of Jesus, or Yeshua in Hebrew, to explain why they believe that Jesus is both the Messiah and God, with the hopes that Israelis might consider following him. The bill does not only make it a simple personal conversion about Jesus with another individual a crime, it would also make it illegal for someone to solicit a person directly, digitally, by mail, or online in order to convert his religion. Thus, producing and publishing online videos explaining the gospel to Jewish or Muslim people in Israel and to those of any other religious faith would suddenly become illegal. Publishing books, other printed literature, online articles, podcasts, and other forms of media that explain the life and ministry of Jesus and his message found in the New Testament would also become illegal. So would discussing the gospel via email, text messages, written letters, and or social media, including answering questions initiated by people who don't follow Jesus. So that's what they're pushing for in Israel. Obviously, I want to say this just as a blanket statement. God bless everybody. I don't have hate in my heart for any religion, any race. That's just what it is. On that note, you have to understand not everyone in Israel is doing this or feels this way. I believe it's just people. But this is in Netanyahu's coalition. These are the Orthodox, right? These are the based, they love Christians so much, our greatest allies. We're all in it together with Netanyahu and Daily Wire and Jordan Peterson. Yeah, that's his coalition. Little interesting, right? Where to start? First, I want to say this. These type of laws, actually, I want to start on this. Let me take it back. In America, if I were to say Chuck Schumer, who happens to be Jewish, and hundreds of Jewish politicians and lawmakers who just so happen to have a passport to Israel, a lot of them, if I were to say, you have dual loyalty to America, that would be considered anti-Semitism, hate speech, right? In America, it's like you can't suggest any Jewish person has loyalty to Israel. That's like, what the bad people did. You can't say that. If you go to the Knesset in Israel, which is their parliament, you're not allowed to have a U.S. passport or a Russian passport, or you can't be a Jew with dual passports. It's illegal in the Knesset. They outlawed it years ago. I don't know if they've overturned it. I'm guessing not, but I've read articles about it. You're not allowed to be a Russian Israeli or an American Israeli or an Italian Israeli. Once you serve in the parliament of the Knesset for Israel, you have to get rid of your other passport. Why? They want to make sure you're focused solely to Israel. Even if you're a great ally with America, get rid of your passport. You serve Israel now. In America, that's not the case. Dr. Oz had a passport to Turkey when he was running. I would say hundreds of lawmakers, probably dozens, have dual passports to Israel. But not only do we not enforce the same laws that the Knesset does, it's actually hate speech, and both parties will call you an anti-Semite if you suggest there might just be someone out there that has loyalty to both. Interesting. I want to show you the two front runners, and this is one of the many reasons I call the fight between DeSantis and Trump a false paradigm. There's pros and cons to both. I don't dislike them completely. But here's something DeSantis did a couple years ago. This is the Jewish Telegraph Agency. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signs legislation against anti-Semitism into law. Sounds harmless, right? Should look at the bill. I'll talk about it. Here's another one. Well, that's DeSantis, right? What about Trump? Trump's totally different. Not really. Trump also signed an executive order against anti-Semitism on college campuses, worrying free speech advocates. Why am I saying this? Am I hateful? Of course not. I'll tell you why. Because one of the rules I'm just going to show you, this is on the State Department website. I'm just going to hold it up so you believe me. One of the hate speech rules on the State Department website is you can't use symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism. Example, that Jews kill Jesus or blood libel to characterize Israelis or Israel. So even now saying Jews killed Jesus is anti-Semitism. It's not just anti-Semitism in the minds of a far left-winger. This is anti-Semitism defined by the State Department on the U.S. government website, and these exact laws and rules that are on the U.S. government website are being passed into legislation by Donald J. Trump and Ronald, whatever his middle name is, DeSantis. And one of the hate speech violations of anti-Semitism that Trump and DeSantis are passing through is to say it's anti-Semitism to say Jews kill Jesus. Why is that interesting? I mean, first of all, why isn't it interesting? But in Israel, they're trying to make it a crime to spread the gospel of Jesus. Not everyone in Israel. Let's not blame everybody. It's like if Chuck Schumer or, Dan Crenshaw try to pass a bill, it doesn't mean everyone's in on it. But these are the orthodox of the Netanyahu legislation. Why? Why would they do that? I thought we were such great allies. Let me just say this, as somebody who doesn't have hate in my heart. In a Muslim country, do they say our religion is Judaism or Judeo-Islam? Have you ever found a Muslim that said, I'm not a Muslim, I'm a Judeo-Muslim? Have you ever found one? No? Do you know why? Because Muslims believe in Islam, and Islam is not Judaism. They're two different religions. So why would you cover up your own religion with a different religion? You know what I'm saying? If you're Jewish, ethnically, you're Jewish ethnically. If you're Jewish religiously, you're Jewish religiously. If you're Christian, you're Christian. If you're Muslim, you're Muslim. But why in the world would a Muslim say, oh, I'm Judeo-Islamo? It means I'm a Muslim, but like it's a thing. It's like only Christians in America do that because Christians have been swallowed alive by the Zionist lobby. That's my opinion. Pretty much just a fact that people think is hate speech. So every Christian in America, oh, I'm Judeo-Christian, I'm Judeo-Christian. What does it mean to have a religion if you're so pathetic and so, compromised that you can't even say your own religion without taking another religion and putting it in front of your religion? And in many ways, that religion isn't your religion. It's just not. It doesn't mean you have to hate somebody, but it's just not your religion. Why would an ultra-Orthodox person try to outlaw the preachings of Jesus in Israel? Well, I don't know who these Orthodox preachers are, but if you read the Talmud, which you're really not supposed to, but the Talmud talks about Jesus boiling in hot excrement for eternity. There's some Jews that, like Ben Shapiro, that are like, whatever, he was whatever, he's just whatever. They don't think he's God. It's not their religion. Many of them hate Jesus. Some would say what you can't say is back in the day that happened. What happened to Jesus? But you get what I'm saying is I'm not going to put words into people's mouth. It's a different religion. If you go to Islam, they like Jesus, they respect Jesus, but they don't see Jesus as their Lord and Savior. But Muslims, in my opinion, on average, respect Jesus a lot more than most Jews that practice Judaism. Not all, but that's just the reality of it. They see him as like whatever. They don't listen to the gospel. A lot of people say they read the first part in the Torah. I mean, then what's the Zohar and the Talmud? These are other texts where they're not following it at all, or they're basically, at least this is my, sophomoric interpretation, is anytime I talk to somebody like that, they always know better. They know better than the Bible. It's not what the Bible said, it's what we say. They reject Jesus. They reject the law. They reject the Lord. They know better. They have other books to explain how they know better than the Bible. I'm not going to say everybody's doing that, but that's just the vibe that I've gotten where it's like, yeah, I get it. You know better. Let me read a book that's 20 million times long that explains it better. I'm Christian. I believe the Bible, but that's fine. Agree to disagree. God bless Islamic people, Jewish people. It's all love. But what Christians in America and Republicans in America don't want to face, which I've been talking for a while, is not the fact you don't need to hate anybody. I don't preach hate. You don't need to hate Muslims, although a lot of people do, unfortunately. You don't need to hate Jews. People do, unfortunately. You don't need to hate other countries. You don't need to hate innocent people all over the world. You want to love. But with that being said, you do also want to understand what's going on. For instance, why would Trump and DeSantis both pass hate speech rules? And if you read the hate speech rules, one of them says it's anti-Semitism to say that Jews killed Jesus. That's one of the anti-Semitism rules on the State Department website, passed through legislation by Trump and DeSantis. Why would two Christians or Catholics or whatever they pretend to be, why would two Christians and Catholics basically try to make Christianity a hate speech violation? Why would they do that? Do they really believe that? Do you think DeSantis and Trump came up with these laws themselves? Of course not. I could trace exactly where they came from. I think it's the IHC, I forget, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, I think it is IHRA, came up with these specific terms, like, I guess it would be like 8-9 years ago now. And these are the ones being passed by the State Department. It's the same set of, this is what it means to be anti-Semitic. It's anti-Semitic to say that Jews control the media or Hollywood or banking. It's anti-Semitic to say that Jews killed Jesus. It's anti-Semitic to say that compare Israel to Nazis. That's hate speech. You can't do it. There's all these rules, and they're very specific. Trump didn't come up with them. DeSantis didn't come up with them. They were created by the IHRA. You could read them, because anytime now the American government passes through anti-Semitism bills, this is what they're passing through. In my opinion, you can't legislate violence. There's a lot of Jews being attacked in America. Many of them are just in the wrong place, wrong time, just like Asian elders. I don't think they're being targeted because they're Asian or Jewish. I think the cities aren't safe where Jews and Asians lived and used to be safe, and the American criminals don't care what race you are. They'll rob their own neighbor for a pair of Jordans or whatever. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just saying, like, a lot of the crime against people in America isn't because of their ethnicity. It exists. I'm not saying it exists, but like, people are unsafe in America because there's just too much crime in the inner cities and they don't care who you are. But with that being said, I don't want crime against certain people, but you can't legislate hate speech. Like, making racist George Floyd speech act doesn't stop the crime against black people. You get making a don't talk about white people dancing funny and making mayonnaise with no, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that you can't can't talk about Karens. That's hate speech against whites. You can't talk about, Jews. Like, passing hate speech laws doesn't stop violence, and it doesn't actually even stop hate. So I don't hate anybody. I don't believe in hate speech violations. It doesn't make sense to me, because most of when they try to pass them through, most of them are true. They just don't want people to say the truth. With that being said, why would Trump and DeSantis pass these hate speech rules into legislation? Why? I can solve the problem. I know people don't want to hear this because there's a false paradigm, Trump versus Biden, Trump versus DeSantis, outsider versus deep state. Let me solve the problem for you. And it's actually very, very not hateful. Why are we closer to Saudi Arabia than we are to Chile? Why do we care about Saudi Arabia more than Chile? Well, Saudi Arabia has more money, right? That's why Saudi Arabia matters more. They have more power because they have more money and they have more oil. Okay, I don't think we like, Saudi Arabia so much more. They have money. So who are the biggest donors in politics? Who's the biggest donor on the left wing? Dare I say his name rhymes with Sorge Joros or Snorge Snoros. He's one of the biggest donors on the left wing. Wonder who he is. Who's one of the biggest donors on the right wing? He passed away. I don't know if his wife is going to continue the legacy, but the biggest donor on the right wing was Sheldon Adelson, who, he donates even more money than George Soros in some elections. The right wing actually has their own donor. Who is Sheldon Adelson? Watch his videos. Sheldon Adelson is a Jewish casino owner. Rest in peace. God bless. But if you listen to his speeches, he'll tell you who he is. And he says, there's this one video that I've played before where Sheldon Adelson's on stage and he essentially says, I served in the American army. Unfortunately, my kids will serve in the Israeli military because I unfortunately served in the American army. So he's admitting he has more loyalty to Israel. He says, unfortunately, I served in American military. Don't worry, my kids will serve in the IDF. They'll be a sniper. I'm paraphrasing, but there's a video of him saying he'd rather his kids serve Israel than America. So why am I bringing this up? To be hateful? Of course not. He has, it seems like, just as much loyalty to Israel as America, or if not more. But one of the laws that Trump and DeSantis and the State Department, it's bipartisan now. They use it to try to shut up Ilhan Omar. They say her name, then they pass these laws. And one of the laws says that it's hate speech to suggest any Jewish person has dual loyalty to Israel. This is a hate speech violation that even Ben Shapiro agrees with. Coincidentally, Ben Shapiro has tweeted word for word the exact hate speech violation. It says it's anti-Semitism to suggest any Jew has dual loyalty to Israel. It's not anti-Semitism. It's a fact. I'm not being hateful. There are Jewish people that have dual loyalty to Israel. Not all of them do, right? Not all Italians like Italy. Not all Saudi Arabians like Saudi Arabia. But it shouldn't be hate speech to suggest one that does, right? So let's fast forward. When Sheldon Adelson, who has already admitted how much he loves Israel, when he gives hundreds of millions of dollars, that's how much Sheldon Adelson gave to the GOP, hundreds of millions, excuse me. What do you think he might want? I don't know. I have no idea what he wants. I think foreign policy that benefits Israel. That's what I think. So when he gives hundreds of millions of dollars to the GOP race and DeSantis flies over to Israel and passes an anti-Semitism speech bill that infringes on the First Amendment, and it's the first Florida bill ever passed on foreign soil, could it be that? When Donald Trump passes an executive order that matches the exact wording of DeSantis's bill, and it matches the exact wording on the State Department website, the exact same speech rules. You can't say Jews killed Jesus. You can't say Jews run the media. You can't say Jews are good at banking. You can't suggest that Israel are Nazis in any way. Like, they're all these very specific, weird words. Like, you can't criticize Israel more than you criticize other democratic nations. So now they get to dictate how much you can and can't criticize Israel. Like if Saudi Arabia is doing more than Qatar, it's not hate speech. It's just like, like why doesn't anybody talk about Chile? Because they're not really doing that much on a world scale. Like it's not because people hate, why are we talking about Ukraine so much? Does everybody hate Ukraine? It's because Ukraine is in the middle of a massive war, so they're going to be talked about more than other countries. But according to these hate speech rules, now they can dictate when you can and can't criticize Israel. So these are like Israeli loyalty laws and Jewish protection laws under the guise of hate speech, anti-Semitism, that were passed through by Trump and DeSantis after the Republican Party, including them, took hundreds of millions of dollars from Sheldon Adelson, who's on stage saying that he wants his kids to serve Israel, and he unfortunately served America. You get what I'm saying? So why would a guy who likes another country lobby? It's so obvious. I mean, I don't really have to say that much. It's super obvious. But here's the problem. Nobody wants to talk about this stuff. I talked about it in 2019. I got smeared. I got falsely labeled. They said it doesn't matter. 2020, obviously, is COVID. Everybody's not paying attention. 2021, got to talk about this. Tomorrow, Trump's going to get arrested. Don't do this. Don't do that. It's all like false paradigm after false paradigm. And I'm not going to tell you who these people are in the core of their soul, but I'll just say this, because I thought of this earlier. When I was younger, I remember watching TV and it was Obama versus Mitt Romney, right? At the time, the media hated Mitt Romney. They hated him. I mean, all media was making him seem crazy and smearing him. Does that mean that Mitt Romney was the good guy because all the media was smearing Mitt Romney over Obama? No, it's a false paradigm. Obama and Romney, there's really not much of a difference. It's just like one of them's the hero, one of them's the villain. You pick a side, but it doesn't really matter what side you pick because the whole outcome's kind of controlled. Like, was Mitt Romney going to change the wheel and save America? No, Mitt Romney was going to be very similar to Barack Obama. He probably would have done like 95% of the same exact stuff, the same wars, the same healthcare. It doesn't matter. But the media smeared Mitt Romney. So he must have been the hero, right? No. Obama must be the hero, right? No. It's all a game. So now there's new false paradigm. It's like, you vote for Trump, you vote for Hillary, you vote for Trump, you get speech laws, you get a lockdown, you get Operation Warp Speed. Now it's him versus DeSantis. One of them's the outsider, right? Well, they both pass speech laws for a foreign country and then cry anti-Semitism when you notice. And now it's like all of my Twitter feed is just a whole false paradigm. I watched a video of Don Jr., who I tend to like. I don't dislike Don Jr., but he's out there screaming like he always does. He's always like yelling, like shaking his head a lot. But he's like, DeSantis is controlled opposition. He's controlled opposition because he didn't answer enough for my father. He's controlled opposition because he didn't answer quick enough. He didn't answer quick enough. It's like, okay, so DeSantis is controlled opposition because he didn't answer quick enough for your dad, but is Don Trump controlled opposition because he sold vaccines and did a $16 billion socialist vaccine scam and said it was the greatest human achievement? Is he controlled? No, we're not going to talk about that, right? That never happened. We'll just move on to the next false paradigm. Are they both controlled opposition because they both infringe on the First Amendment for a foreign country after they take hundreds of millions of dollars from donors? Are they both controlled opposition or no? We're not going to talk about that, right? If the president took $100 million from corporations, including Pfizer and Bank of America, and then he hired a bunch of pharmacy lobbyists, does that make him controlled opposition? No, right? It's this new false paradigm that the only thing wrong with DeSantis is the fact that he doesn't cover Trump's ass quick enough. When Trump constantly says he's like messing around with underage girls, called him gay today, crapped on him, said he doesn't care about him, calls him sanctimonious, calls him a meatball, says he doesn't care if a Democrat won. Yeah, but that's the only thing DeSantis needs to do, right? Is just defend the guy who hates on him every day. It's his responsibility, right? He's got to just lick the boots of the guy who wants to destroy his life. And that's the new fake paradigm. Oh, the anti-establishment Donald Trump versus meatball. It's all fake. It's all fake. With this bill and this story, this is Netanyahu's Knesset. Two people in his coalition, or whatever they call it, passing a bill to make Christianity basically illegal, sharing the gospel of Jesus in Israel. Do you think God, the Christian God, wants to make it illegal in Israel to share the gospel? Why would your greatest ally do that? Maybe it's because they hate you. Maybe they don't like Jesus. Maybe they look at Christians like goyim, which is a word for non-Jew. Maybe their religion is based off of ethnic supremacy and they care about themselves and they don't care about you. Maybe they're just using you. Maybe DeSantis and Trump are just useful idiot puppet pawns who sell you out for a couple $100 million. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe there's a specific verse in the Bible that talks about the good and evil. There's some good people and there's some bad people. That's just the way the world is. And some people, you could always give your life to Jesus. That's what Ye was preaching, that even Soros could give his life to Jesus. I know that's a crazy statement to most, but you're supposed to be loving as a Christian. But the Bible doesn't say that everybody's great all the time, even if they reject the gospel. In fact, Revelation twice talks about the synagogue of Satan. It says, I know there are Jews that'll say they are that are not. I will make them of the synagogue of Satan to let them know I've loved you too. Meaning there's obviously amazing Jews and there's obviously evil Jews, just like there's going to be evil people of every race. But, saying Jesus was Jewish is true. But it's like saying George Washington was British. It's like you can't criticize these people because, Jesus was Jewish. Yeah, and George Washington was British, but what defined him was being American. Jesus was Jewish, but what defined him was being Christian, rejecting the law of the Jews at the time. I'm not saying everybody's in on it, but you can't say, nowhere in the Bible does it say you have to lick the boots of a country that wants to ban your entire gospel. That's not what it says. Zionism has infiltrated all Christianity to the point where they have no identity anymore. I don't care what you think of this country or that country, but if your entire existence as a religion revolves around licking the boots of a foreign country, of people that, look at you like goyim, which is a word that means not them. They have a word that means not us. And you're like, oh yeah, it's Judeo-Christian. Do they call themselves Christo-Jew? Like, no, they're Jews. They're Judaism. They're not like Christiano-Judaism. That's pathetic. But everybody does it in the Republican Party because the Republican Party's like completely compromised. So it's like they've completely erased Christianity to the point where they have to put a whole nother word in front of it just to define themselves. I don't care what you are, but if you're a Judeo-Islamo, it's pathetic. Just drop both labels and say you're nothing. Might as well just be an atheist or something. It's like, pick, what are you? I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, we don't have a party that cares about our interests. They'll infringe on the First Amendment at any second. They'll call it hate speech to suggest reality. It's read the rules, read the laws that were passed in by Trump and DeSantis. And the crazy part is too, it's just like with other ethnic conversations in this country, you can't legislate violence by taking away the First Amendment. Trying to take away the First Amendment for the LGBTQ Rainbow Coalition has only increased the hate and disagreements with the rainbows. You know what I'm saying? The fact that they can't be questioned, the fact that there's no age too young, the fact that they could play sports with the girl. It's like, I'm not saying you can't play sports, but play sports in a female division as a biologically born man. You get what I'm saying? But you can't talk about it because it's hate speech and you must just hate gays. That whole energy, you see how the energy works. It's not helping the LGBTQs. It's making more people turn against them because they feel like they can't have a conversation about reality without being called a homophobe or whatever. It's the same thing in America as far as BLM activism, right? I think racism, like quote unquote racism, was at an all-time low in like 10, 15 years ago. And I think that people have a little more like, they're getting annoyed because it's like after not caring about race at all, they're getting beaten in the head with BLM here, riots here, destroying property, but that's okay. And, now we're going to do this. Now we're going to tear down your statues. Now we're going to call you racist. Now if you're white and do well, it's this and that. And they push it so hard that people are like, now they're just getting annoyed. They're like, I don't care about race, but all this fake activism and speech policing is just making me more annoyed. And it's the same thing with anti-Semitism. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, but it's not going to work. In my view, a Jew is the least safe in this country in a Democrat city because, a lot of Jews live in Beverly Hills. It's not even safe there anymore. A lot of Jews live in New York City. It's not safe there anymore. So it's like most of the targeting of Jewish people, in my view, is more just being in a crappy city where these criminals don't care who you are. They don't care if you're Asian. They don't care if you're Jewish. They don't care if you're white. They don't care what religion you are. These cities are not safe. Smash and grabs are daily. You know what I'm saying? Stealing people's cars are daily. These criminals, these demons in these cities, they don't care who you are. So it's like, people are not safe in America. And it's not because of hate speech. It's because the cities are not safe. And the people doing the crime, they don't really care who you are. With that being said, obviously there's always going to be targeted people who don't like Muslims, people who don't like Christians, people who don't like Jews. It's unfortunate. It's annoying. But what are you going to do to stop it? Are you going to make it illegal to criticize? Are you going to make it illegal in America, a hate speech violation to even suggest anything's happening? It's hate speech to say that people own banks. It's hate speech to like Bible verses or hate speech. Like it's not going to solve anything. It only makes the problem worse. Having no self-awareness, having no self-accountability, and just kind of quashing the issue is only going to make things weirder. And with that being said, whether this bill goes through or not, I'm guessing no. But here's what I'll say too. One, this is going to raise a lot of awareness because when you try to explain this stuff a couple of years ago, nobody wants to hear it. Once Christians find out that this is actually a bill being floated by Netanyahu's legislation, millions of Christians are going to wake up to what nobody wanted to talk about a couple of years ago, which is what's really going on. And the truth is, in my view, the Republican Party is completely controlled, completely bought and sold to the Israeli lobby. And here's where it gets interesting before people call me hate speech and stuff. When Jews in Israel were actually facing big pharma persecution and they turned into a Pfizer experiment and their leaders sold them out and they were on weird lockdowns and they couldn't go to stores if they didn't have a Pfizer shot. I know people in Israel and they said that it was like really ugly for a while over there with all the vaccine tyranny. Where were all these Zionists like Mike Pompeo? Did Mike Pompeo make a statement? He loves Jews so much, right? Or he takes donor money and pretends like he likes Jews. Did he ever make a statement to stand with the people of Israel? Did Donald Trump make it clear that he was totally against Israel, closing down, vaccine Did he make a big stand for the people of Israel? Did Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, where were all these people that claim they love Jews so much in the Zionist Republican movement? Where were they when Jews actually were being persecuted? Very few people actually said anything because guess what? They don't actually care about Jews. They just like donor money. Where do you think all the money is in the Republican side? I'll give you a hint. It's hate speech if I say it. I'm not being rude. It's just the truth. Who are the biggest donors? Who are the biggest events? They stand there with a Jewish star behind them and they're like, yeah, I love Jews. I'll fight for Israel. I'll sacrifice me and my family for Israel. And then they give them donor money and they move on. They don't actually care about the people. They don't actually care about America. That's the Republican Party. They're completely sold out to the Israel lobby. And guess what? The Israel lobby, in my view, doesn't necessarily care about their own people, and they certainly don't care about us. Why would they care about us? They're just using us like every other country in the world, because why wouldn't you? So, I find it ripe that all the people in 2019 and 2020 that are like, oh my gosh, what are you, an anti-Semite? And I'm like, no, I just believe in the First Amendment, Are you a racist if you don't want to pass a George Floyd hate speech, bill that says it's illegal to protest on a college campus, that says here these 15 things to say are now hate speech violations and you can't even say them? Does that mean you hate them? No, it just means you have a basic principled stance against the First Amendment. And this is what I've been trying to explain to people in the nicest way for a while. The Republican Party, although they're the lesser of two evils in many ways, and I vote for these losers, they don't actually care what they say about. When they're out of office, they say they're going to cut the deficit. When they're in office, they raise it 7 to 9 trillion. When they're out of office, they're not going to print the money, and Biden prints too much. When they're in power, they print just as much as Biden. You know what I'm saying? They're psychotic socialists when they have their hands on the money printer, but when they're out, they're not going to do it. When they're in office, they care about the First Amendment and they're fighting big tech. When they're outside, when they're inside, they didn't do jack what about big tech, and they sold out the First Amendment. When they're outside of office, they're going to protect the Second Amendment. When they're inside the office, they infringe on it because of a school shooting. This is who the Republican Party is. They're fake. The problem is people used to know that both sides were fake, and people used to know that a politician would lie to you. But now, because of Donald Trump, people just assume that they really care because they're really good at acting or something. So, this has been a long time coming as far as not just this bill, but the awakening of people, where infringing on the First Amendment doesn't stop hate. It only increases hate, and it also just It eliminates personal freedoms from American citizens. And when you start losing this freedom, this freedom, this freedom, this freedom, don't be surprised when all the other ones go. Because if they can say, well, you talking about banking statistics is anti-Semitism because you notice banking and media statistics. I mean, yeah, it's factual statistics of who owns what, but it's hate speech because it's anti-Semitism. And you notice crime statistics, FBI crime statistics, that's racist. That's hate speech. That's racist. So you can't say that. That's racist. You can't say that. That's anti-Semitic. Well, what's going to stop them from saying, well, there's a virus and, it's a hate speech and dangerous. It's dangerous for you to say that vaccines aren't amazing because it's a public health crisis and it's an emergency. And we can't have misinformation and You get what I'm saying? The First Amendment is a genius piece of legislation. It's not perfect, but it's pretty smart. The Founding Fathers were pretty witty. I don't care what people say. Very smart guys. With that being said, you get what I'm saying? If you give up your right to criticize this group because they have power and they don't want you to talk about it, if you give up your right for this, don't be surprised if you're locked inside your house and now all of a sudden you can't criticize Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and Moderna because it's like an open door. If you don't have the right to speak about social issues, if you don't have the right to speak about health issues, then you don't really have a First Amendment. And if the public square is being controlled by Facebook, YouTube, Google, etc., and they're following the World Health Organization guidelines and they're banning U.S. citizens for disagreeing with the WHO, then that means your country's being controlled by the World Health Organization. If I get banned from YouTube as an American citizen because I disagreed and spoke the truth against a foreign entity, well, that foreign entity is controlling YouTube and in turn controlling America. So, these are things, it's not a hateful thing. I'm not being rude, but I'll just end on this note. I wouldn't be shocked if this passed. I wouldn't be shocked if this got shut down. But these two Orthodox rabbis, I'm not trying to blame everybody, but this is, in my view, this is not a rare view. Like, if you go to a Christian commune with 1 million people and you say, do you love Jesus Christ? If they're all Christians, all of them will love Jesus Christ and appreciate Jesus Christ and think that, he was the Lord and Savior. If you go to a Muslim commune with 1 million Muslims and you say, do you love Jesus? They revere Jesus Christ. They love Jesus. They say he was a prophet. He just wasn't the Messiah. 1 million out of 1 million Muslims are going to love Jesus. If you go to a Jewish area and ask 1 million of them, you're not going to get as many people who like him. Maybe it would be 50%, 30%. I don't know. Does Ben Shapiro think Jesus is amazing? I don't think so. It's like, whatever. He was just like a guy. I'm smarter than him. I'm smarter than Jesus. I mean, I sell vaccines and I try to give. It's like, yeah, that's the whole shtick. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like they always know better. They always know better than Jesus. They know better than the Bible. They'll tell you what it really says. They got another book of like 1,000 rabbis yelling at each other, talking about this and that, saying Jesus is boiling in hot poop for eternity, like that's literally in the Talmud, but it's just a thing, they're just having an argument. Of course they are, because you always know better than the Bible. You always know better than Jesus. I get it. You think he was a magician or whatever, just, he just had these rules that you don't want to follow and you still don't want to follow. So it's like, to me, that's the whole gist of it. It's like, the Bible and Jesus had a great set of rules that were moral and awesome. And, a lot of these people just want to reject the laws and think that they know better, but they don't. And, if you reject reality, it always comes back to bite you in the ass. So it's like, it's better to just at least consider it. But I'm not trying to be rude and I'm not trying to be mean. It's just like this fake idea that Zionist American Christians have, that their greatest allies, like obsessed with them as they are with you. They're not. They're just using you because it's like you're like their lapdog dummy, like robot. Like, yeah, go do that. And then like Christian Zionists just do whatever they want. Like it's like all the politicians are controlled. You know what I'm saying? All the media companies are controlled. People like Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, you can't say it, whatever. All of a sudden they're spontaneously have the same war agenda. Who could have thought? Like the same. It's just, I get what's going on. It's the same story over and over, but you can't say why. Whatever. I'm not. It is what it is. I'm not mad about it. I'm not angry. I know what's going on, and it's worth thinking about, in my opinion. There's good people everywhere. There's bad people everywhere. I don't think the Bible says that you're supposed to get on your knees and like lick the ground of the country where people reject your Lord and Savior. Like, that's not your religion. Your religion doesn't say everybody of that ethnic group, regardless of whether they're religious or not. Most of them aren't religious at all. They're atheists and have no, like, spiritual, I guess, like, following of that kind. It's just an ethnic thing for them. It's not even a religious thing. The Bible doesn't say to, like, go just do everything they say, infringe on the First Amendment, like, just go fight wars. And, like, it's not, I don't know who tricked Christian conservatives into thinking that that's what it says, but just like you're supposed to stand up for righteousness everywhere, it's the same thing with Israel. Like, and Netanyahu is a genius leader. It's like he's got Trump and those Republicans like under his thumb, but he's aligned with like Orthodox who they might reject vaccines and be very disciplined, but as far as, loving Christians so much and loving Jesus, like I don't really think that's what's going on, but we'll see. We'll see how this is taken in Israel. I know Israel, just like America, has a lot of differences. There's like left-wing Jews who are like, oh my gosh, don't do that, and then you have like, they're like, Netanyahu is trying to take my land from the Palestinians. Like, I get that. It's not like everyone agrees in Israel. I'm not trying to say that. There's going to be a lot of backlash from the left-wing Jews. There's going to be right-wing Jews in Israel that aren't as orthodox and as quote unquote extreme as Netanyahu's coalition. Like, there's a lot of debates about what to do with the land in Palestine. Obviously, I mean, I don't need to tell people that. So I'm not trying to paint this narrative that everybody feels a certain way, because it's not true. There's great people everywhere. There's people who love Christ in Israel, but it's not everybody, and I think there's a lot of religious people that they don't like them and they would much rather people not talk about them and spread the gospel. It's like offensive, I guess, to some people. Like, it's offensive that people are over there trying to give Jesus to the kids. But it's worth thinking about. If two people in the Knesset are trying to pass a bill that gives you 2 years in prison, if you try to preach the gospel to a kid, 2 years in prison, 1 year for an adult. It's interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'll probably stay for 2-3 more minutes, but that's my take. I saw all this coming. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more. And this is my only hope for America. I have no hate in my heart. I don't care who's doing what. But when politicians get controlled by money, they try to act like you're being hateful, right? If I say that Jewish donors are paying off Trump and DeSantis to get them to pass speech laws, that sounds really hateful, right? What if it's true? What if what I just said is true? Pfizer paid $1 million to Trump, and Trump took $100 million from corporations, and Trump laced his entire cabinet with lobbyists. Does that sound like, hey, oh, you just hate him? I don't hate him. That's how politics works. People are so brainwashed because they hate or like Trump too much, to the point where people don't even know how politics works. It's hate speech to say donors pay off Trump and DeSantis. It's true. It's hate speech to say that Trump got lobbied by Big Pharma. It's true. That's just how it works, You could go, I was laughing because, I'm not trying to get too off topic, but I see all these people on Twitter, and I'm not mad. Call out DeSantis. I don't care. But they're like, DeSantis is too cozy with Paul Ryan. And I'm going through Twitter, right? Because people always tag me and stuff. In 2018, 2 years. I mean, I could just read exactly what Trump said. I'm just going to read it so people don't misconstrue it. This is 2 years after Paul Ryan was in office. He's about to leave office. A lot of people say that Paul Ryan is the reason Trump didn't get anything done and he blocked everything. Here's what Trump said about Paul Ryan as he's departing politics. Ready? I'm going to read 2 tweets. This one's from 2018. Trump said, Speaker Paul Ryan is truly a good man, and while he will not be seeking re-election, he will leave a legacy of achievement that nobody can question. We are all with you, Paul. So this wasn't before Trump got into office. This is after Trump didn't get to do anything because Paul Ryan stopped him and he was trying so hard. He says, Paul Ryan, he has a legacy no one can question. We all are with you, Paul. Here's Trump in 2020. He says, Senator Mitch McConnell, Team Mitch, always delivers for the people of Kentucky, who will hopefully reelect their powerful Senate Majority Leader. Mitch has helped us make America great again, and he has my complete and total endorsement. Kentucky sent Mitch McConnell. Just like Trump took $1 million from Pfizer, so did the Kentucky Republicans. They got $1 million from Pfizer to build their new facility. So the entire Republican Party is sold out to pharma. But, Trump and DeSantis both passed speech laws because they take donor money. But it's not that they're getting bought out, guys. They're your best friend. And it's only DeSantis who's cozy with Paul Ryan, not the guy who worked with him for 2 years and said that he truly did a great job and his legacy can't be questioned. Trump has people by the balls because he's a good actor. He's a good liar. He's a good con artist, and he's a good salesman. So when everyone else does corrupt things and takes lobbying money, that's corruption, and we all have to yell at DeSantis. But when Trump does it, it's this magical game that everyone plays that it never happened. He never complimented Paul Ryan after. He never said he did a great job. He never endorsed he endorsed Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney. And the point that I'm trying to get to is people say I'm hating. The truth sounds like hate speech when people hate the truth. When I speak about donor money to Trump and DeSantis, people say it's anti-Semitism. If I read basic crime statistics, people could say it's racist. If I, look at the NBA and notice a pattern, people could say I hate white people. I'm just using stupid examples, but it's like, I'm not a hateful person at all. Someone said he endorsed Lindsey Graham too. Of course, he put him on his rally the first time. I'm saying this because everything I say sounds like hate speech because people are so bought in to politics. They're so bought into the false paradigm of Trump and DeSantis. They're so bought into the fact that they think he's outsider. They're so bought into it. It's a fake circus, right? There's some things that they'll do, but at the end of the day, I believe when people wake up to what's really going on, that's when stuff's going to change. And there's a lot of deep stuff that isn't being addressed and will never be addressed until people wake up. So this is a topic I found fascinating for two reasons. One, it's the Holy Land, probably the holiest land in the world, that the people there are trying to outlaw and jail people for preaching the gospel of Jesus. And you have brainwashed Christians who literally think that their entire purpose is to serve a foreign government that doesn't even like their Lord and Savior at all. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody, but that's the religion. And I'm going to end on this example, and I'm not trying to be rude, and I'm not trying to be mean. When people say, well, Jesus was Jewish, I agree. I understand that. And I have no hate in my heart. George Washington was British. It's a great example. He was British. But what made George Washington an icon? Was it just being another British person, just like all the British people? Is that what made him so great? He was just a British guy. No, George Washington was America. He was the father of America. He helped found America, a new set of rules against the British. What made George Washington a legend was the fact that he was American, not the fact that he was British. It matters, but it's like calling him another Brit. It's the same with Jesus. Yes, he was Jewish. But what made him Jesus Christ, that we all know today, is that he was Christian. He was, it wasn't just the fact he's another guy. The people that were other guys at the time didn't like him. And it's the same as today. There's people who like him, there's people who don't. It is what it is, but if you're a Christian, it's worth taking a look at why, your greatest ally and the Netanyahu coalition of Orthodox, are looking at a bill to outlaw the preaching of Jesus Christ. I don't want to blame everybody. I don't want to be hateful because I'm not that way at all. But eventually Christians are going to have to wake up, and eventually Republicans are going to have to wake up and just take a look at it. And at the end of the day, I think in America, I'll end on this note, I think in America, certain people have been brainwashed against standing up for their best interests. In America, you can be black and form a coalition for your race. You could be Jewish and form a coalition for your race. You could be, and for people who don't know, some people consider themselves Jewish as a religion, Judaism, but a lot of Jewish people, it's just a race to them. Like, do you think Seth Rogen's reading the Talmud and the Torah? No, Seth Rogen's probably eating cheesy poofs and watching pornos. I'm just kidding. I don't know. It's just like he's not religiously Jewish, probably. He's probably just ethnically Jewish. But the point that I'm getting to is, they can form a group for their own interests. So can black people, so can everybody. But in America, there's one racial group that can't do that. If you do it, it's racist. And if you do it, it's supremacy. It's an interesting double standards and hypocrisy that everybody sees. I don't care what you want to do. It's just odd that everybody seems to be able to do it, except for one group. When it comes to Christians, it's like Muslims look out for themselves, Jews obviously look out for themselves in many ways, and Christians, in my opinion, just serve Jews. What does the Christian Zionist movement in America do? Pass speech laws for Israel, take donor money, cry anti-Semitism. What are they doing? When's the last time they built a bunch of churches? When's the last, I'm not trying to be rude, but it's even the Christian movement of America is so busy serving the interests of people who don't even believe in their Lord and Savior. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not trying to be rude. I respect Israel for looking out for themselves. Like that's what you're supposed to do. It's like you think like Saudi Arabia is running around the world doing stuff and building for like synagogues and churches. No, they're building mosques because they're Muslims. It's like Christians are so compromised. It's insane. It's like just the thought of being themselves sounds like hate speech to them. It's ridiculous. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, what in the world is going? I know what's going on though. It's money. And I'm not being rude. That's why they hate to say, oh, it's hate speech to say people have money. It's not hate speech, it's a fact. The reason we're closer to Saudi Arabia than we are to Libya is because Saudi Arabia has more money and more oil. The reason we're in Ukraine fighting Russia and we're not in Chile, it's like there's money, there's power, there's influence, there's things going on there. That doesn't make you hateful. It's just the truth. Like if you don't like Zelensky, you're not anti-Semitic and you're not anti-Ukrainian. It's a big war, and they're sucking up a lot of real estate in people's minds because of what's going on in the world. If you criticize Saudi Arabia more than Italy, it doesn't mean you hate Muslims. It just means Italy's not really doing that much to even talk about. So the point that I'm trying to get to is it is what it is. Like money influences politics. So when they dump a bunch of money into the Republican Party, they jump like puppets. Pharma dumps money in, Trump jumps like a puppet for pharma. A lot of times, not under Trump, but the military industrial complex dumps money in and they jump like a puppet. Blank donors dump money in and they jump like puppets, Trump and DeSantis. So it's like the biggest lie and the most deceiving thing that's going to hold, in my view, conservatives back in the next couple of years is this idea that Trump is so much different. Like he's never taken donor money. He's never sold out. He's totally against Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. He's not at all. He's not at all. He's a good actor and he's good at creating false paradigms. And honestly, he's good at being selfish and creating narratives that revolve around him that never get to the core of anything that's going on. And I'm looking on Twitter. I know this is not the real world, but the amount of people that are constantly falling for it and constantly getting mad at each other and constantly like, oh, it's over for this guy. And I'm like, it's so, at the end of the day, America, Christians, anyone, everybody needs to take self-accountability because we're not the victim in America. Nobody's hurting us. It's not the donor's fault. It's our fault for not paying attention. And I'm going to say this as just like I say self-accountability for other groups and it's not hate speech. Same with Americans. It's like, if you act like sheep, people will treat you like sheep, Some people literally think you are animals. So it's like, try to prove them wrong. Prove that you have a soul, that you have a mind, that you have a spirit. If you act like sheep on a conveyor belt, lobbyists, donors, foreign countries, anybody, they're going to keep treating you like that because you're not really demanding any other treatment. So I think like, if people wake up and respect themselves and actually just hold their own with love, with consideration, with thoughtfulness, all of this tyranny in many ways will end. But right now, I just see America, it's like two parties sold out to Big Pharma, but the left wing thinks they're fighting Big Pharma because they hate Trump. The right wing thinks they're fighting Big Pharma because they like Trump. It's all fake, and people are just getting more addicted to pills. Big Pharma is buying over real estate. Two presidents that helped Big Pharma more than any presidents in recent history was Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. Ronald Reagan took away liability for them under the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. Ronald Reagan did more for Big Pharma than perhaps anyone in 40 years. He sold America out to the pharmacy lobby, and so did his Congress in both parties when he was there. Donald Trump, with Operation Warp Speed, all the executive orders, the money printing, Trump rolled out the red carpet for Big Pharma. But who are Republicans' two favorite presidents who are fighting the system? Reagan and Trump. Why? Because they're good talkers. Reagan was an actor, and Trump might as well have been. He's a very charismatic, charming guy. So that's what Republicans like. They don't like the truth. They don't like people standing up to Big Pharma. They like an actor who lies to them and sells them out to pharma, and a billionaire who's been famous his whole life who lies to them and convinces him he's not different. That this is not everyone else's fault. I'm not saying I'm a victim to a group. Nobody bothers me. I love people from all over the place. It's our fault. You know what I'm saying? If that's what you want, an actor and a guy who might as well being an actor selling out the country to Big Pharma with a smile on their face and you buy into it, those are your two favorite politicians, why wouldn't they keep scamming you? You know what I'm saying? America at this point deserves to get scammed if this is what people like. They like a lie with a smile. That's what everyone likes. And the funny thing is people make fun of Democrats for that. Oh, Democrats just like lies with a smile. So do you. You just like a different lie. They like the blue lie, you like the red lie. And I'm not trying to act like I'm above it, but really it's like it is, in my opinion, pretty simple at this point. And watching certain people that are older act like children, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, act like 10-year-olds. I'm like, maybe I am the adult in the room. And that's not a compliment to myself. It's almost embarrassing. It's like me being in a room with a bunch of like string beans and being like, I'm the strongest person in this room. Yeah, but not by default, because this is so pathetic. So I pray that people wake up, just think about stuff. And at the end of the day, just be able to, whether it's your greatest ally or your political party, be able to remove emotion. I don't know if I would call it false misconceptions or whatever. Just analyze it, be thoughtful about it, and understand that just like when left-wingers destroy a city and they're like, we're being so nice, weakness is not kindness. It's the same thing with Christians and conservatives. Being weak to your politicians and being weak to the donor class, they have you wrapped under their finger. And it's like all the conversations that people are going to have over the next year about Trump versus DeSantis, it's all going to be a total false paradigm. I'm already saying it's like anything that Trump accuses DeSantis of with Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, he already did it. He was in office for 2 years, and then he complimented Paul Ryan and said he did a great job. He endorsed Mitch McConnell. He endorsed Mitt Romney. He hired Mitch McConnell's wife. Trump is so close to the swamp, it's not even funny. But he's going to convince people that DeSantis is the only one that's kind of with them and he's not. And people are buying it. Even people that I know that I thought were smart and honest, even they're buying it. I'm like, wow, no wonder America keeps getting scammed, because people are so naive or foolish or fake. I don't know what it is, but I pray people wake up and just be a little more honest, because weakness is not kindness. It's not kind to be weak to your country, to your values. It's okay to understand how politics work. It's not, Night at the Apollo. It's not LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. It's not, Cirque du Soleil. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not your local barista. This is politics. There's billions of dollars swarming around. There's bribes, there's donations, there's mega donors, there's corporate donations, there's pharmaceutical donations. That's how it works. That's how it works with Democrats. That's how it works with Republicans. That's how it works with Trump, and that's how it works with, DeSantis. You would be just as foolish to think that might not happen to DeSantis, then just as foolish as people who think it didn't happen to Trump. It's the same foolishness. Like, actions speak louder than words, but that's just how it works, and it'll keep working that way until people figure it out, in my view. God bless you. Let me know what you think, and, it's not an easy thing to talk about, trust me. People will be seething over the calm, kind, thoughtful reality that I just shared. It is what it is. I don't really care. Have a beautiful day. I'll be back. Thanks for hanging out, and share this video if you like. Look it up and have a convo. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, Stay Blessed long sleeve, God is Great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk for $5 a month. You can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop and patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My free email list is stayintouchwithme.com. So check the links below in the description, or just type in on any browser, stayintouchwithme.com, all one word. You'll find my email list, put it in there, and it's the least annoying email list you'll ever be on. I barely use it because I don't like getting emailed every day or every week. It's annoying. So I don't do it. Stayintouchwithme.com. It helps me take back some power away from big tech. Telegram, t.me/DreamRareChat or @DreamRareChat. Due to censorship, I post all my live stream and videos there. Sometimes I have some bonus content, and I try to give people a heads up when Facebook or YouTube won't. DreamRareChat at Telegram. My Instagram is @DreamRare. Thanks for everybody following there for shorter content. And DreamRareLinks.com. That's DreamRareLinks.com. Has all my stuff. My podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, my music on Spotify and Apple, my Rumble page, my BitChute and Gab page. All my links are found at DreamRareLinks.com. Thanks for watching, folks. God bless you. You already know I'll be back with more content soon. Appreciate you.